Pioneers from a time before labels like progressive rock had assumed common coinage, Pentangle made music that really was impossible to categorize. A self-consciously arty hybrid of blues, folk, jazz, classical, and something unnameable that could only be produced when the 5 individuals in the group stood, or, more usually in their case, sat, in the same room together.
Pentangle, the folk purist's worst nightmare. A couple of Davy Graham disciples on guitar, a folky girl singer, all driven by a jazz rhythm section.
And in the place your time was great, spread all our withering, we'll spread all our withering.
It was unheard of, really, I suppose. Was I jazzing up the folkies? Those folk idols, you know, and there was this... So I don't know what they made of it. A lot of people didn't like it, especially when we started using amplifiers. I used to get death threats.
Let's get away, you say, find a better place, miles and miles away from the city's waste. Look around for someone.
We used to have solos in the band, and that would involve, a 20 minutes solo from Danny.
I used to get more space within an ensemble like that than doing Ronnie's. The fact that Terry, the drummer, was a very sympathetic and rhythmic percussionist, and he wasn't all over the drum kit like drummers tend to do, gave you that space. And I did take liberties.
We got into the jazz habit of actually leaving the stage to let them perform. We could actually leave anybody on the stage. We would actually get to the point where when we wanted to have a drink, we would devise it so that Jacqui would be left on the stage on her own. And we'd all manage to get to the bar and have a drink. And sometimes we forget that she was actually still up there. But it did mean we were doing 2-hour, 3-hour shows.
Pentangle are a British folk band, formed in London in 1967. The original band was active in the late 1960s and early 1970s, and a later version has been active since the early 1980s. The original lineup, which was unchanged throughout the band's first incarnation, 1967-1973, was Jacqui McShee, vocals, John Renbourn, vocals and guitar, Bert Jansch, vocals and guitar, Danny Thompson, double bass, and Terry Cox, drums. The name Pentangle was chosen to represent the 5 members of the band, and is also the device on Sir Gawain's shield in the Middle English poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which held a fascination for Renbourn. In 2007, the original members of the band were reunited to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at the BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards and to record a short concert that was broadcast on BBC Radio. The following June, all 5 original members embarked on a 12-date UK tour. The original group formed in 1967. Renbourn and Jansch, who shared a house in St. John's Wood, were already popular musicians on the British folk scene, with several solo albums each and a duet LP called Bert and John. Their use of complex interdependent guitar parts, referred to as folk baroque, had become a distinctive characteristic of their music. Jacqui McShee had begun as an unpaid floor singer in several London folk clubs. Then, by 1965, ran a folk club at the Red Lion in Sutton, Surrey, establishing a friendship with Jansch and Renbourn when they played there. She sang on Renbourn's Another Monday album and performed with him as a duo, debuting at Les Cousins Club in August 1966. Thompson and Cox were well known as jazz musicians and had played together in Alexis Corner's band. By 1966, they were both part of Duffy Power's Nucleus, a band which also included John McLaughlin on electric guitar. Thompson was well known to Renbourn through appearances at Les Cousins and working with him on a project for television. In 1967, the Scottish entrepreneur Bruce Dunnett, who had recently organized a tour for Jansch, set up a Sunday nightclub for him and Renbourn at the, now defunct, Horseshoe Hotel in Tottenham Court Road. McShee began to join them as a vocalist, and, by March of that year, Thompson and Cox were being billed as part of the band. Renbourn claims to be the catalyst that brought the band together, but credits Jansch with the idea to get the band to play in a regular place, to knock it into shape. Although nominally a folk group, the members shared different tastes and influences. McShee had a grounding in traditional music, Cox and Thompson a love of jazz, Renbourn a growing interest in early music, and Jansch a taste for blues and contemporaries such as Bob Dylan. The first public concert by Pentangle was a sellout performance at the Royal Festival Hall on 27 May 1967. Later that year, they undertook a short tour of Denmark, in which they were disastrously billed as a rock and roll band, and a short UK tour organized by Nathan Joseph of Transatlantic Records. By this stage, their association with Bruce Dunnett had ended, and, early in 1968, they acquired Joe Lustig as a manager. With his influence, they graduated from clubs to concert halls, and from then on, as Colin Harper puts it, the ramshackle, happy-go-lucky progress of the Pentangle was going to be a streamlined machine of purpose and efficiency. Pentangle signed up with Transatlantic Records, and their eponymous debut LP was released in May 1968. This all-acoustic album was produced by Shel Talmy, who has claimed to have employed an innovative approach to recording acoustic guitars to deliver a very bright, bell-like sound. On 29 June of that year, they performed at London's Royal Festival Hall. Recordings from that concert formed part of their second album, Sweet Child, released in November 1968, a double LP comprising live and studio recordings. Basket of Light, which followed in mid-1969, was their greatest commercial success, thanks to a surprise hit single, Light Flight, which became popular through its use as theme music for the television series Take 3 Girls, the BBC's first drama series to be broadcast in color, for which the band also provided incidental music. The album went all the way to number 5 in the charts. By 1970, they were at the peak of their popularity, recording a soundtrack for the film Tam Lin, making at least 12 television appearances, and undertaking tours of the UK, including the Isle of Wight Festival, and America, including a concert at the Carnegie Hall. However, their fourth album, Cruel Sister, released in October 1970, was a commercial disaster. This was an album of traditional songs that included a 18-1-2-minute-long version of Jack Orion, a song that Jansch and Renbourn had recorded previously as a duo. It failed to go higher than number 51 in the charts. The band returned to a mix of traditional and original material on Reflection, recorded in March 1971. This was received without enthusiasm by the music press. By this time, the strains of touring and of working together as a band were readily apparent. Bill Leader, who produced the album, said, "It seems to me, in retrospect, that each day a different member of the group had decided that this was it. Sod this for a game of soldiers. I'm leaving the group." The final album of the original lineup was Solomon's Seal, released by Warner Brothers Reprise in 1972. Its release was accompanied by a UK tour, in which Pentangle were supported by Whiz Jones and Clive Palmer's band Cobb. The last few dates of the tour had to be cancelled owing to Thompson becoming ill. On New Year's Day 1973, Jansch decided to leave the band. Pentangle Split was the front page headline of the first issue of Melody Maker of the Year. Whilst the new Pentangle incarnations and personnel changes took the band in various musical directions, Interest in the original Pentangle lineup continued, with at least 19 compilation albums being released between 1972 and 2016. Bert Jansch died of cancer on 5th October 2011, aged 67. John Renbourn was found dead at his home on 26 March 2015 after a suspected heart attack. Film director Ben Wheatley included Pentangle's song Let No Man Steal Your Thime in the Netflix adaptation of Rebecca 2020 film.